The weekend warriors, the amateur leagues. Wow, these people should train, huh? Should prepare themselves to compete like a professional? We'll find out now. I'm Cassiano Costa. I'm here at Costa Performance in Boca Raton. And today we're gonna talk a little bit the differences in the training for amateurs and professionals. Because at the end of the day, they are challenged according to their capacity, of course, their levels. And what would be a good training? Well, what are the main differences between a professional athlete training preparation and an amateur? Initially, I would say one big point would be the training load, right? The professional athlete, he will rely and depend and live through his or her body performance, whereas the amateur is doing with large amount of less pressure, right? Or responsibility, if you will. Mentally is more as a distraction than really a need for performance. Now, obviously, no matter the level you're playing or the sports you're playing, you still, as a regular human being, you wanna play your best, you wanna win, you wanna achieve goals. But the way the body will be physically challenged can vary. And when you have like the professional who is being through that process throughout his entire life, the body can and will receive different loads in order for his or her preparation, right? Whereas the amateur not necessarily had a history of training and or organized training throughout his journey. Definitely one thing to take in consideration, and probably a very important point, is the training load. So what I mean by training load is the amount of strain and stress that the body will receive when training. Because training is stress, simple as that. For us to have adaptations and optimizations of the body, we need to put that in stress. So in the past, one great researcher named Seal, he stipulated a level of right amount of stress for one to become better, which he nicknamed or created the name as the undercompensation or overcompensation law. So the body has its homeostasis, which is like at the level where everything's functioning at a standard manner. And if you put stress on that system will be challenged and per se stressed for a certain amount of time. Then the researchers, they start studying exactly what each capacity or each model of training requires as recovery. But then the recovery process is a remodeling, and normally that remodeling is to bring something to a better stage than previously, so we don't get lost here. So let's say, let's put a fake numbers and fake measure units. Let's say my body works at 100, that's my level, and I put some stress, so now the following hours my body will be at 80 or at 78. Once my body is fully recovered, it won't get back at 100. The ideal with proper recovery is 102, 103, 104. Now, that depends on obviously many considerations: what I eat, what I drink, sleep, stress, mental stress. Let's forget that for 1 second. Let's just focus on the raw process there, right? So if I have a stress that drops too much my body from that regular neutral line, the homeostasis, that stress maybe could be either too aggressive initially for that moment, or second, it can require way more number of hours or days for me to recover, right? And if I don't follow that recovery process, I'll start like creating an environment called overtraining. And overtraining to injury, overtraining to illness, they are very linked. They are hand to hand, walking next to each other. So the training load is to understand how much strain, how much stress was imposed to the body, and then what is the ideal recovery. Now, when I say recovery, not necessarily I mean that the athlete or the amateur needs to be, just sleeping to recover. Obviously, although sleeping is kind of the best form of recovery, he or she either decrease the intensity, change the capacity stimulated. That brings us to a new concept, which is called periodization. So we debate in other podcasts or other episodes what the periodization is, but a quick reminder here: when you set up the training kind of in blocks or periods. That's why periodization. You stipulate inside those periods what's the curve of intensity, which capacity going to be more developed or more stimulated than the other, and so on. All of these to say that it's quite important to understand before even start training anyone, no matter if amateur or professional, what's the initial level that a person is approaching to your training. Second, which conditions that person have in terms of recovery or in terms of how the body reacts to it, which is also associated to the level and experience. And third, obviously, what is the importance of that for the person in terms of, I'm a professional runner and I must run kind of every day because that's what brings food to my table. Obviously, I know already that frequency should be high. I know already that I have to stimulate the body very close to the maximum, respecting periodization and the overtraining laws. At the end of the day, that's really like what that person should be. Whereas if I have a business person who comes to me and say, look, I'm an amateur runner. I didn't run most of my life, but I started running wherever when I was 30 or so. And now I decided to really put a good training on my shoes so I can, perform a marathon or an Ironman, wherever he or she decides to. I understand that there is a limit where I can go with a person, even in terms of the dedication or the commitment, because that person will have a lot of other things to do in the day. So if I stimulated an athlete at his maximum exertion, I know that the next day he or she gonna put all his effort on the recovery process, whereas that businessman perhaps must have the intention, must have the knowledge, but I just don't have the logistics to do so. So you gotta calculate everything. So we understand that obviously the training load of an amateur overall lines should be consistently smaller than the professional athlete. Okay. Not putting here athlete on any special category, but just one more time, it's more used to, had like years of challenging and has the time and intention to put all his efforts towards it. Now, remember I mentioned the periodization here. So here at Costa Performance, we have 90% of our clientele as professional athletes. Obviously, here at Costa Performance, we have 90% of clientele, either junior athletes, youth athletes, or professional athletes. But we also have a running group. We also have some of the parents that are physically active in terms of sports, and they train with us. To begin, the frequency is different. Majority of our athletes come here like 5 times a week, 6 times a week, depending on the level they are and the sports they are and their logistics. The amateur athletes, they come twice, 3 times, and that's perfect. Now, am I saying that the amateur athletes could not come 5 or 6 times? They can come as many times as they want. The situation is overall, because they have other affairs in their lives, they don't have the time to come that high frequency. If they come, then the adaptation that we should do is more on the intensity curve and obviously the respect on their recovery. Now, after all, professional or amateur, that person is receiving a good stimulation throughout years and has a training age of certain number of years, 5, 6, whatever. They probably can have their routines very similar to an athlete. We have a couple of adults here that are not like professional athletes, and when you see their routine is quite similar, but it's still, especially because normally these people, they are more on the group aging of like a 30s and 40s, so not necessarily they are closer to their peak age. They are probably past already that peak age. So we gotta understand that, and we gotta think of it when we put the training for them. So I would say, number one, how many hours that person will put on his or her sport. Number two, how many hours that person can add on their preparation. Based on that, you create a frequency, right? You understand the frequency and you can set it up. So let's make an example here to not be so boring. Let's say we have a female, 40 years old, who plays tennis 3 times a week, play a league, and also like to run on her free time. What will be like a nice week for them? So per se, what are your interests? You're gonna strengthen your body, okay. You're gonna work on your agility and speed, fantastic. You're gonna work on your balance, core, and stabilization, fantastic. And you do have 5 days a week to do that. Wow, that's a perfect scenario, right? We can split across the capacities throughout the week. We understand that the league match is, let's say, on Thursday. So understand Friday will be probably Wednesday and Friday will be lower intensity training sessions. And then he or she, in the case here, has her tennis lessons on Monday and Wednesday. So based on everything, we can create an appropriate program and offer her what will get the most out of her performance with the minimum risk possible, right? Now, if that same situation we do have here, let's say that same person say, look, I'm gonna do all of these and I come once a week to you. So do I just do a 5-hour session with her? No, of course not. Like that's not how the body works, right? So you have to adapt to her reality. So if that's your frequency, okay, probably every time you come, we're gonna work more on preventive stuff and let you develop your performance through tennis a bit. Now, it is our role to maybe sit with the person and try to propose something different, to propose something that, hey, understand that you wanna have all that fun with tennis, but from the perspective of performance, would be great if you would give us one more day, or if you maybe here and there would switch a tennis session for a preparation session. Few more things that we gotta take in consideration, because I'm assuming here all the amateurs are older citizens, right? And that's not necessarily true, because you can have lots of young adults or even teenagers that they play a certain sport, but not necessarily they want to follow that in terms of their life option, either through scholarship or professionalism, but they still gonna train under certain routines, and they still gonna challenge their body, they still gonna stress their body. So it's important to see the age, right? Like thankfully, because of medicine and sports science has evolved so long on the last few decades that you can see now professional athletes going all the way to 40 years old and still being, performing amazingly. And that's same valid for the general pop, for the amateurs. You can see people that are 40, 50, 60, and they're still performing unbelievable. So it's important to understand what is their biological age, but also how their body got to that age before creating the program. One thing that is fundamental, I think, no matter if amateurs or professionals, it is to assess their injury history, if any, right? Because that can be very impactful for their development. I personally have 2 hip replacements, so I still play my soccer leagues. I still do my skateboarding and surfing, which I know for many on the medical field will consider that a miracle. But I'll have to be very careful with certain activities. I'll be very careful with things that rotate the body aggressively, like let's say golf, or if I would play, I don't know, ice hockey. And obviously, if I had someone that would coordinate my training, it needs to have this quite clear, so there is no risk that I get any issue with the training itself. And last but not least, as I said, one big difference between the pros and the amateurs is more their life routines. So their time that will be addressed for the training, their time that will be addressed for their competition, if you will, and more importantly, their time and conditions that will be addressed for their recovery. I think a professional from our field, before start working with any person, general pop or athlete, it's important to understand those points. Well, now if I have to recommend one thing, either for coaches, trainers, physios, or amateur athletes in general, the biggest risk is to copy professional training. And that's also valid for youth athletes. I quite often get here on our facility parents or coaches or athletes more in terms of the general pop that come here. Hey, in tennis, I saw Sinner doing that specific thing, or oh, I would love to move like Messi, or wow, I want to be like the same drive range as Tiger Woods. Well, these people put like a lot of time on their life, and they are fully prepared to, one, get to the level they are, and mostly important, to do the things they do. So to copy a professional, a high performer level athlete to your routine, I don't think is the best way to go. So gotta be very careful, and especially nowadays with all the tools we have, and chat GPTs, and all the artificial intelligence, just get a recommendation that is based on someone that lives out of that. I don't think is the best way to go. Gotta be careful, because you can be putting your body at a large risk. Not criticizing any method here, but on the beginning, when CrossFit launched their programs, a lot of people got seriously injured because they were trying to represent a very challenging and high intensity model of training with people that at the beginning had no capacity to do so. And I bet a lot of orthopedic surgeons and PTs, they got extremely happy with that approach. But I would say, yes, we are people that we like to perform. We are people that like to perform as quick as we could. But sometimes the rush or just copying things that seem to be effective for a certain population or a certain person, not necessarily will reproduce good results on your own routine. A few things, that I would like to share with coaches or athletes. No matter if you are professional or amateur, I think certain things can be similar. So one thing, assessment, evaluation, control. Okay, so I think it's important when you start with an athlete or an athlete that is starting in any training regimen, create a baseline. Think of a GPS, right? Like if I want to go to the mall, what the GPS asks me, okay, where you want to go? The mall. Second question, where you at? So that's for what the initial assessment, the initial evaluation will consist on. Where are you at right now? Because with that, we know exactly, or at least we have a good idea, what type of path should we follow to now achieve what you're looking for. Are we going to achieve? Well, wish we could predict a lot of things, right? That's not one that, but at least we can provide the best tools or the best ways or the best possibilities to get to that point. So that will be most important. Second, perhaps create benchmarks, perhaps create small goals or short-term goals that we can, one, it will be engaging for the athlete, right? Like to see, okay, maybe by 3 months, it will be important if I am able to do certain things, or by 5 months, or by 10 sessions, whatever is the way, you will be the one knowing to what your athlete needs and to create. And then reassess, right? Like a check progress. Is it a very valid tool? I feel sometimes we are insecure to what if in 6 months and we still have no improvement? Well, the no improvement can be a good wake-up call. Could be something that is coming from the athlete that he or she are not doing, or just, we had let's say you set to assess after 3 months and the last 2 weeks the athlete got sick. We've got to take that in consideration. Either change the day of the assessment or so. But also for the coach, sometimes the results not being right there, it's a good way for you to review, to see, am I using the best possibility? Am I using the best approach? And from there, perhaps redo your training. I like to say that human beings like to be challenged, right? So, but again, the challenge must follow capacity. If you ask me now, hey, can you just go and climb the Everest mountain? I don't think I'll be able to, right? Because first, I barely know what it takes to do it. So that would be probably too much challenge. But if you say, hey, could you run, 3 miles? Well, that could be a possibility, and that will engage me to say, let me see where we're at. So I think challenging the athlete, no matter if professional or amateur, is important. The only thing is, you know, understand what type of challenge you can provide, because some people will try the challenge no matter what, just because it's the way we are, but that can be dangerous. But in the other way, if we also stay like stagnant in, you know, a certain way to see things, and there is no, you know, engagement, fun, entertainment, whatever you want to call, that will also take a risk that the person doesn't buy in and, you know, quickly set the program aside. The other thing is, listen, maybe that's personal approach, and people can get results in different ways. No rush, you know, we don't need the results for Friday. If we start on Monday, long-term things are more sustainable. Consistency is key. Consistency is such a powerful thing in life at all, and in training that doesn't change. Now, doesn't mean that consistency means high frequency. I can be consistent in whatever I have that I can do, right? So I need to go 10 days a week to be consistent. No, but you know, have the discipline that even the days that your body is not there or your mind is not there, you still get the best out of it. 100% is daily basis measure, right? I think from the coach's side now, I don't like that we maybe, you know, add too much weight or add too much speed or add too much intensity just to keep the client loyal to us. I think we are very liable and reliable to provide the best experience, and that for me is with proper control, either on the technique of the athlete, either on the recovery of the athlete, either on the guidance and education of the athlete. And by athlete here I mean professional athlete, amateur athlete. So I do believe those are very important points. One change that I forgot to mention here that I also see, which is a positive on the amateur. The professional sometimes comes too tired from his sport to train, or the professional has so much pressure on his performance when he trains that sometimes training then can be challenging, because, you know, you almost have to convince them that they have to do that. Whereas most of the amateur athletes, when they come to you and they look to train with you, is because they made that decision free of any pressure or situation. So the pleasure on that is fantastic. Obviously, that's a great asset to have, and it can be very enjoyable for the coach to train people under that condition. The only thing is sometimes the excitement is too high and, you know, the look for information can be very contradictory. So just need to be careful, you know, that athlete from the beginning won't do more than he or she is supposed to do. That's why control on the periodization, control on the volume is also very important. I do believe one thing that, you know, I won't put any brand here, any name or any specific device, but more and more now we have situations where you can measure lots of things, from, you know, training strain all the way to a quality of sleep and recover. And more those devices are getting more accessible in terms of how to find it and price. So I do recommend that, you know, if you are an athlete looking to start training, or if you are a coach who's going to receive training, people, not only athletes or professional athletes, I do believe is very valuable to use such devices, so you can have a much better profiling of your population, your individual client, and definitely success could be more possible to be achievable. Okay. At the end of the day, I think what athletes are looking for, professional or not, is being able to play their sport, being able to play their sport with the best ways possible, being free of injury, you know, being healthy, why not? And one of the ways to find that is through organized and structured training. As I said, in our performance center here, we have all the tools and the personnel to offer that. either if you are young, college or professional athlete, or as I started the podcast saying, the weekend warriors. So if you need to know anything more about us, please go on our social media, Instagram, Costa Performance, YouTube, and no matter what, I think, again, no matter your level, always look for a professional who spend his or her time trying to learn to offer the best possible for you. So as a closing, amateur, professional, get your training going, stay safe of injury, just make sure you understand your level. Coaches, if you are with the athletes, make sure you understand the athletes' level, have fun, and I see you next time here.